Welcome back to B2B Marketing Futures, the podcast for B2B marketers sponsored by AdSact, the B2B ad platform. Today, we are exploring a question that is every marketer's mind today, and it's about how do you position yourself as a winner rather than a loser in the age of AI. Okay, we know that AI is transforming content, operations, strategy, and even how teams work, but outcomes vary a lot. So some teams are accelerating creativity and impact, others are drowning in generic output, and we have a great panel today with us today, leaders in brand, field, marketing, strategy, technology. And before we dive into today's conversation, I'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves and share a little bit about you and your background. Maybe Sandra, would you like to start and give a sentence on yourself? Welcome.
Yes, absolutely. I'm Sandra Anderstedt. I'm heading up marketing and communications in one of Sandvik's business areas called Intelligent Manufacturing.
Thank you. Welcome. Steph, welcome.
Hey, yeah. So I've been working across EMEA B2B SaaS and infrastructure marketing for around about kind of 10, 15 years now across multi-region, multi-platform and multi-language as well. So
Herman, welcome.
Hi, I'm Herman Kamashko. I'm a director of marketing and technology at Safeguard Global. Most of my career actually be a software architect and developer. I'm a hands-on programmer who turned to marketing and sales just because I found it more fun. And we do a lot of an area of AI at the moment at Safeguard Global. It's nice to be here.
Welcome, Herman. Kirsten, welcome.
Thanks, Joaquin. I'm Kirsten van Rooyen, based in London. I work as the Director of Marketing Strategy at Superside. I work with the customers that Superside has to enable better marketing strategies, and Superside is an AI-enabled company. So AI is in every touch point of our business, and we use it to amplify the creative and the strategic work that we output for customers. So excited to chat about this today.
Awesome, welcome. And Koby.
Hi, my name's Koby Amedume. I'm the former Global VP of Marketing for TeamViewer. I've been in technology for nearly 2.5 decades, and now I run my own agency called The Demand Cloud, working with companies to accelerate their growth and new business acquisition.
Amazing. Well, great introductions. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's start with, to set the context, how are you using AI today and how AI has changed your lives, I don't know, in the last years or the last months? This is evolving so quickly.
I use it in, I would say, 3 ways. I'm really interested in personal efficiency. So, of course, here AI is like taking me to the next level here. So anything from finding my documents in files without having to search for it, or lately I've used the notebook functionality in Microsoft Copilot and kind of poured in all the meeting notes about a specific topic, and then I can discuss and bounce ideas based on that specific input. So I think that's really good. And then the other area where I use it is with my marketing and communications team as well. It's an editor for content or a researcher to create campaigns or more extensive material. But it could also be for web translations, SEO, things like that. And then the third area is, like many of you mentioned already, we use it in our software as well, as software is our offering within manufacturing. So we use that AI in our manufacturing software as well.
So AI is everywhere. It's hard to use any platform now without some form of AI happening in the system. And I guess for us at Superside and within my team and how I use it is it shows up as less as a novelty and more just how we're able to run strategy and creative at scale. So we've really embraced using it to remove the operational drag so that our teams can spend more time on insights and judgment and creative direction and really driving parts of the work that drive the outcomes rather than spending hours and hours and hours making pivot tables. And we also use it as a great way for us to collaborate on thought starters, creating projects in whichever AI tool we're using and start to collaborate operate being in an async environment, working across 70 countries. It gives us a place we can centralize information and brainstorm together, but without you losing the core of what we're looking at. I think AI, I actually had this very discussion last night, has opened the opportunity to take on projects we probably wouldn't have taken on before, when you're getting 18 months to 2 years worth of data across multiple platforms, multiple teams. Like a human being cost to look at that data 2 years ago, 18 months ago would have been astronomical. But having AI there to enable us to be able to look at it at scale and get to synthesizing the insights a lot faster has really opened the opportunity to work in a more impactful way with our customers and do work that we had never really explored before. So just a taste from my side.
I think where I've been, having been working in kind of IT, I've always seen AI quite at a kind of arm's length. And as a marketer, there's been a level of fear that it will take away the creativity that marketing can bring, because, there's a level of AI that can kind of do that generation. So in the last kind of 6 to 9 months, I've been really in the testing phase to see where it's really adding the most value. And as you say, Kirsten, with that, operational drag and getting efficient, Sandra, as well, from where we're spending a lot of heavy lifting as marketers in, demand generation, lead loading. How do we create outlines, campaign outlines that are effective to the right audiences, and seeing what prompts really work to allow for nuance. So you're kind of challenging your own analysis within that phase to see what kind of comes out and how nimble you can be utilizing AI. So it's very much the last kind of 6 to 9 months using it with that kind of co-pilot organizational element, but also pulling it into being much faster at getting things in front of those who need to see it sooner. So that's kind of where the testing is, and it's kind of a little bit A/B and constant redrawing of what those lines look and learning with that too.
I think the challenge for us as marketeers and people in an industry is, how do we optimize those tools using the capabilities that they present for us, but also not forgetting the fundamentals of our experience, knowledge, passions, foresight, and insight into how our customers behave, how we interact with our sales operations, how we provide our company with the right opportunities to engage with in a quicker, faster, more effective way. So for me, it's about utilizing the skills and human knowledge with the tools that you have to be able to work faster and produce better outcomes for your organization.
We use AI in all sorts of ways. We operate in 180 countries, so our biggest challenge is data gathering and information gathering, a lot of translations. And because we're an employment legislation company, what matters to us most is gathering data as quickly as possible as it happens. So as the new legislations are being passed, regulatory requirements are changing between different countries, how much talent we have to be able to gather that information. But with the help of AI and data gathering, we can optimize we're going to do all of the heavy lifting and all the hard work of scanning the internet every day for the key informational changes that are important to us. And then we're going to give it to people once it goes through stages of, AI workflow automation. And we use a lot of tools like N8N and Make.com. I'm sure you've heard of those before. We try to have a bit of a shift from using simple, text-to-speech, chat GPT or Perplexity conversation into more of a, what is our pattern? What does our marketers every day do again and again and again and again? How can we actually create a protocol out of it into, all right, every day we're scanning for, has there been legislation changes in any states? What are they? Do they matter to us? And it's very specific to our company, but that can apply to anybody, right? As any company and any marketing team, you're probably interested in the news that happened an hour ago because you want to react to that, you want to respond to that, you want to follow up with some sort of marketing campaign, run ads. And I think that's where the personalization and relevance really shines, because now you're not just talking about generic things that all of your competitors talking about, but you're trying to really, really help to your audience and your customers, because you've just learned about something. You process that as a human being, but the only way that was possible is because AI does this robotic scan of the thousands and thousands of pages every day, right? Or every week, however you create the protocol. If AI does something well, great, let it do it, but let it do it automatically. And then as you're seeing the output, you can also refine the output and change process to make it better and better across the team or even across the organization if multiple teams, not just the marketers, are using it. So yeah, that's how we're using AI today.
Well, those are great examples. And I would love to dig deep on those things that separates marketers who win with AI from those who lose. And I think this is very related with what you, Koby, and Herman were just describing, like using the capabilities of marketers, for example, be closer to clients, or creating protocols, as you mentioned, Herman, like the repeatability and reliability on the processes that we have. And we'd love to dig deep on that. Like, what separates marketers who win with AI from those who lose?
I think fundamentally for me, AI is a tool like any other tool. We've had CRMs, databases, all sorts of tools in marketing forever, right? Number one, it's a tool. Number two, you're talking about the human element within AI and marketing in particular. So when we talk about the various use cases of AI, for marketing specifically, I'll give you one example. I recently had a couple of emails from copywriters I used to work with who are looking for work because guess what? A lot of organizations are getting rid of their copywriters because I can put it through an AI engine and it'll give me all this lovely content straight away, right? Which is great, yeah. But the challenge is how does that content perform? How does it look to your client? The point I'm making is that with this base level of generic AI-driven content, not having that gap of marketing expertise, that content writer who spent most of his career understanding how to place words in a sentence, how to engage with your audience to start that conversation, using the psychology that they've developed over a period of time, but also using the tools to be able to enhance that is something that misses the point for a lot of organizations because they think it's the panacea of wherever they're going to go to. Now, hands up, I use AI to help me with content, but it's to get started. And then you add your own experience, your own information, your own knowledge, the research you've done. And it avoids the issue around hallucinations for some of the AI engines that you get where a fact is a fact until you challenge it and you find that actually it's not really a fact, they just made it up.
Yeah, it's so important to remember that it's just a tool, right? Yeah, what about the rest? Can you recall a moment where AI amplified good thinking or exposed poor thinking in your experience?
I think one thing, just whilst you were talking there, Koby, your example made me think of the kind of example of when they were doing kind of automatic testing with to identify dogs, and they were going through like doing that automatic thing, and then obviously the Alaskan Husky was identified effectively by the snow, not by the dog that was in the photo.
The picture.
Yeah, and so that really, I think, hits home and really kind of speaks to how important it is to have that human judgment, have that kind of understanding of what it is you're actually looking at, because I think whenever we're utilizing tools like this, what you're putting in is really it will always determine what comes out in the end. And I think what I've worked with a lot of kind of skeptical marketers that have genuine concerns around AI, whereas I've kind of changed my perspective over the years of looking at what that looks like, with LLMs and things like that, and how that landscape has grown. And I always come back to, and Joaquin, I think I mentioned this when we talked before, about I kind of look at AI as that tool, that washing machine, effectively. I can wash my clothes myself in the bath, but I'm not going to it's not where I'm adding the most value. Where I add the most value is kind of, what detergent I'm choosing, what cycle we're putting on. Is it the right clothes that I'm putting it on, And AI is not going to take the clothes out of the washing machine for me and hang them up or anything like that. And it's not going to determine how they're used after. The human that's kind of adding into that will always do that. But it's knowing, kind of doing some intentional testing with AI, being really specific with what you're looking to get out of it within relation to the work that you're doing. And I think as we're coming into this age of where AI is infiltrating everywhere, and also we're moving into kind of no-click territory as well when it comes to content and websites, it's really good to kind of understand what we're trying to achieve with AI, and setting a good intention to start with and being disciplined with it. Because I think over the years, marketing has shown, and in many other disciplines, experimentation, measuring those outcomes and refining the processes is always going to add more and more value. But you can't do that. Like AI can't do that for you. It requires a group of people, especially if you have to work cross-departmentally, that nuance across regions. Otherwise, you're leaning into stereotypes, because ultimately it leans on the prompter or the person who creates that prompt to build what it looks like. And we see that in so many different areas of society as well, that when it's built by particular perspectives, shall we say, then the outcomes can also be defined by that as well. So it's really important not just to challenge yourself with that, but also make sure that the information you're getting is coming from multiple places, but you're setting that intention really clearly to understand what you're going to get out of it in the end.
I love that perspective, and I love that analogy about a washing machine. Ultimately, it's a labor-saving device, right? From my perspective, I'm a big fan of AI. I love it. It's been an instrumental part of my business in terms of being a labor-saving device, 100%. But it comes back to the point, there are various forms of AI that we're talking about, whether it's productivity, like Sandra raised before, around optimizing your diary, your emails, doing all that kind of stuff, to where we're leading towards very quickly, not there yet, but we're talking about general intelligence, when you can ask and have an intelligent discussion with a. Right now, it's based on training. It's based on large language models. So it's not actually artificial intelligence per se. It's large data models, data sets, big data being analyzed in a way that gives outcomes. And unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is around what you said before in terms of how that model's been trained, the perspectives that's put into it, and it kind of sometimes gives you confirmation bias. This is why the point I raised about looking at specific use cases, and then specifically for marketing and marketers, the perennial challenge we have as an industry, as a discipline, is fundamentally we're tasked with generating awareness for the companies we work for, generating pipeline for the companies we work for, and accelerating the customer acquisition and business growth, right? Those fundamentally, there or thereabouts, are the things that we're tasked to do. And anything that helps us do that in a smarter, better, quicker way is always welcome. But over the years, I've seen different things, different fall storms about technology that's going to change the world. But this one genuinely is, because what I'm finding when I'm recruiting marketers, they're more like you, Herman, more technical in their background, more trained in either software development or some sort of technology, especially from marketing operations side of things. You need to really understand the bits and bytes of throughput and the technology behind the architecture of that to be able to apply that to a marketing context. But what I feel sometimes is missing is that born experience of someone having to build a campaign from scratch, looking at the audiences, understanding what the key messages are, what is going to resonate, working with a sales operation to see what customers they want to be targeting and why, building that into your campaign framework, and then building out the channels and routes to market, and then monitoring those, refining them, and adjusting them to get you the outcomes that you're trying to drive for your business. And I think once we get to a tipping point where it's more technology focused than the core aspect of marketing focus, that's kind of where we lose the argument a little bit, because people then become less concerned about the not just the creativity, but the input of marketing to what technology can actually deliver for a point of view.
I think in terms of positioning ourselves as winners in marketing with AI, you have to start with the process. And what we call human when it matters. Within the company, we are a B2B software organization, but a lot of what we do is dealing with people, helping customers and companies to employ people internationally. So to us, we want to make sure that we automate everything we can automate, but we are human first. And I think it's the same in marketing, right? Automate when you're trying to understand if this is the right prospect, is this your ICP or not? Automate that. Figure out how to understand quickly. Don't give it to sales until you're sure this is this is a hot lead, Maybe automate that. Figure out how to do the intelligence. But when it comes to a human needs help, put the human forward, right? Don't try to outsource them to AI. Somebody's trying to talk to you. And we're so desperate, everybody is always for leads. You want to understand, well, how do we get them? So when you get them, make sure you talk to them. Don't try to outsource them and send them to through pipelines and chains of emails. Put your best foot forward and talk to them. And I think where it starts, just to add to what Koby said, I think embedding a software, and I always say a change to marketing, but I think if you don't want to necessarily hire somebody who's both in marketing and a software developer, embed a software person, a technical leader into your marketing team or your RevOps team or your sales ops team, whatever it is you're doing. Because to what Steph was saying, right, the washing machine analogy is perfect, but sometimes it might feel overwhelming to understand, is this a washing machine? Is it a dryer? Is it a dishwasher? What kind of parameters are there? What are we putting in? What are we getting out? What do we actually need? How much power does it take, right? And I think across the board understanding what can we do and what should we do less likely to be taken advantage of by what I call ChatGPT wrappers. I think there's a lot of companies out there who are great. I'm not necessarily saying if something built on ChatGPT is not good, but I think there's a lot of examples where if you ask a developer, hey, can we do that? And they will say, you actually don't need to pay $100,000 a year for this B2B subscription. We can build this in 3 weeks on top of ChatGPT ourselves. We'll just build a ChatGPT project, upload some content, and this is us, because that's exactly what it does, right? Do we really need this fancy user interface? And I think that's where having a technical person in your RevOps or your marketing team is very important, because then you can work together and engage them early in the process, explain the business use case, explain them, this is our audience, this is what we're looking for, this is what we're trying to solve. This is where we think the time consuming part is. We want to, our speed to lead is bad because of that. So engage them there, try to understand, break it down. Huge fan of flowcharts, draw it out, create a diagram, understand the process, and they will help you. They will think as a software developer to okay, how we can actually automate that. So that would be my advice.
I love that point of view here, man. I think, and coming back to Koby's point about thinking of AI just as a tool, what you mentioned of building teams with diversity of thinking and diversity of skills, bringing technical people, if you remove AI from that equation, it's still super valid, right? You still want that diversity. You still want that technical knowledge alongside creativity. So if you build teams like that, nothing wrong can come out of that, right? And if you put AI on top of that, of course you will accelerate everything. Kirsten,
I was going to bring it back more to the creative world, but I think we've all touched on it in some way here. And the notes I'd written down is the human has to know what they're doing with AI. And there's some things that the AI can't solve for you, like very complex workflows. It can try its best, but you almost, good old pen and paper or the whiteboard, you need to sketch it out, map it out, and you need to be really clear on where AI is going to amplify the process, where it can automate, where the human touch needs to come in, as Herman mentioned, because all AI will do is, if you're not super clear on the foundation of what you needed to achieve, is it's just going to magnify the gap that you give it, and it's going to make it worse. Rather spend the time building a strong human foundation with clear guardrails of what you want the AI to achieve, whether that's in marketing or in tech developments around your pipeline, and then be clear in what the outputs need to be, and then make sure that the AI isn't duping you, because I think we've allowed AI to also get lazy by us being lazy and not questioning it deeply and digging a little bit deeper when it gives us the intended outputs we ask for it.
I think that's great advice. And another perspective that I would like to add to what will separate those who succeed with others, I think, is also to be curious and to have a continuous learning mindset, because technology evolves all the time, whether it's AI or other platforms. and so on. So to really build a habit to test and experiment, be curious, and just try instead of thinking that you need to set aside a lot of time. I need to take half a day now to learn this. Then it becomes too big of a hurdle to even get started. So I think just take small steps and just explore and be curious every day. I think that is something that will also separate those who win with others.
Yeah, and let's connect that, and let's finish by zooming in on the individual marketer, not just the team. How can personal brand and creativity amplified by AI become a strategic advantage?
Personal brand standpoint.
Exactly.
To
How
kind of
have you seen
amplify.
in AI help individuals scale their thinking or their
Well,
point of view?
I'll give you one example how I've seen AI not help someone is when they're using straight AI content and cut and pasting it onto a LinkedIn profile post and assuming that people think, wow, this is really smart, intelligent written stuff by a bot, not you, right? I think that the key is, like I said before, I use AI every day. I use various tools, various forms, but I also use it as a starting point. And what I use, sometimes when I'm sitting there and I want to write something, I'm stumped. I'll use it as a prompt to get going. Then I'll look at it and think, actually, that's one of the points I want to raise, but there's other things that are missing from here. Then I'll add my own experience and own knowledge and personality to it. I think what doesn't help your personal brand is if you're sloppy and lazy and not actually add anything of substance from yourself within that. Absolutely use the tools to get you amplified, and get some consistency in terms of what you're doing and use that as part of your regime. But don't expect that the tools will do everything for you. All right, that's from my own personal perspective.
The human being has to have an opinion, and the AI can be there as a partner, but it can't give you a voice. It can only scale the thoughts that you already have. And I think as marketers, we fall into a trap for both our businesses and our personal brands that, you need to be creating scale and you need to be making lots of content all the time. And I constantly say, make meaningful content where the AI makes it or supports you in it, or whether you make it with your own hands and brain, the entire process, and use AI where it can help to accelerate the work, but make sure your perspective is very clear and meaningful to what you want to achieve.
I think the word authenticity comes to mind. I think me personally, I engage with content a lot, way more than I should. And I think there's creators on TikTok and Instagram that I adore. And I think that's how you build your personal brand. You tell an honest story of why you do what you do. And that's the best marketing in my opinion, right? Is I will always be better sold anything if I know there's sweat and tears and why are you doing this? Why have you built this? Why have you created this? And I will always buy from you than from a no-name label because I know who you are. I know who you are, right? By just looking at, listening to you every day, you're just popping up here and there. The amount of stuff I bought, both professionally and personally, I lost count because I keep seeing somebody I'm like, oh, actually, hold on, I actually want this juicer or whatever, right? And I think it's again, to human when it matters, it's hard to create content. If you ever try to consistently post on anywhere and grow audience, it's extremely difficult. And you all know, right? Probably with that Zach, it's probably a lot of work to edit a podcast and publish it and do all of the work. That's where AI comes in, right? You try to automate the process to understand, okay, where the time is being wasted, where can it be automated? The editing, the processing, we see more and more tools like Riverside, like Descript and others helping us with that. The authentic voice can come in the middle, right? You're still you, but you're trying to use AI to create consistency. And I think that's where AI and automation comes in for me personally. It's hard to every day do the same thing, but that's what works, right? That's how you create the brand recognition and voice. And we're seeing this across to what Koby said. I absolutely love that LinkedIn has become dull for a while. For a few months, it's like, I can't deal with this anymore. This is just becoming so silly. We're going from genuine posts, people start just posting videos of almost, Vine videos on LinkedIn. Like, what is happening here? This is a professional network. And, I think we're seeing a transition from corporate cold accounts. This is what we do to, hey, I'm the CEO of this company. This is what we do. Come talk to me if you have a problem. Right. And And I think this will get amplified. And as long as you're using AI, help you to stay consistent and structured and help you to do this on a regular basis instead of trying to replace you, you're going to be fine.
Great.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you have said before now. I think coming back to what Koby, the use cases that you shared, I think of it more as use it as for your personal brand, use it more as an editor, not a writer. So the more of your own words and your own thoughts you pour in, and then let AI refine it or structure it or organize it, I think then it tends to be more authentic. But if you kind of use it to write a post about this, then it will not fly. I think a differentiator right now actually is the authenticity and adding that human perspective, because there's so much generic content out there now when we're still in the beginning of this transformation with or revolution with AI. But I think the more of yourself you put into AI and then just use it as an editor or as a support or someone to bounce things with, I think then it can make you more efficient, but should not take over your own voice.
I love that. I think the perspectives that everyone's shared just there is I absolutely agree. I think there's a couple of things that I would say that I think where I'm seeing AI from a personal brand is coming in. I really, Herman, when you mentioned about authenticity, I think that is what we, both as marketers, but as humans that walk around in the world, that's what we look for. When we're looking to do business, humans do business with other humans in the end. That's where it's incredibly powerful. When things go wrong, it's how a business and their people handle that and how they support you through those things. Those are things that AI in general can't handle for you. But I think the core thing around, when I got into marketing all those years ago, I got in because I love to connect with people. I wanted to communicate with people. I wanted to create connections and kind of understand what made them tick and how to, develop a message that really reaches somebody and connects with them from the product that you're providing. And I think this goes back to a couple of things that you were saying, maybe about being clear and being really intentional with what you're doing. From personal brand perspective as well, I think something that it can also help is around confidence building as we're going through an evolution of change. We're seeing some of the metrics that we as marketers have relied upon for a few years. PPC has changed so much in the last couple of years that it's really fundamentally changed, say, an entire structure of marketing that didn't exist 30 years ago or something. So these evolutions in marketing are continuing to happen, but we've learned to move with them. And I think as we see new marketers with new perspectives coming into the market, AI can be used is to build a level of confidence with, and not to use another analogy, but I call them kind of bumpers on the bowling lane. And I think this is kind of what you were saying, Herman, about having that foundational, and Kirsten, having that foundational element to understand where you want to be within what you're building with AI. And I think that can allow people to grow in confidence in different areas of marketing and also from different ways of communicating to different people in the organization. It can probably, in my opinion, accelerate a lot of the kind of diversity of thought process and how people approach different tasks to help people kind of move a little bit faster within, because everybody wants everything. The CMO and the CEO want something yesterday or 3 weeks ago even. And there are some people who get kind of task stuck and get that kind of task paralysis. And I think AI is a really great tool to help people kind of, I think they call it kind of eat the frog and get those things done to allow them to move on. And I think it's those things, again, it's a different tool that is just accelerating and empowering people. But as long as you've got those kind of bumpers on to make sure that and those foundations are laid and you're clear, then I think those things will definitely help as you build both as a business, but also where you learn to optimize as a human, because in some ways it's actually driving more human connection, AI, than it is driving the move away that we've probably been seeing over the last 10 years.
I love that. I've learned 2 new analogies today, and one's eat the frog. I haven't come across that. And I think there's a famous philosopher, Ross Kemp, once said, if you stop learning, you become a dinosaur, right? So I'm a big fan of continuous learning, and I'm definitely one who doesn't know everything, but I love to learn new things every day. From my perspective, everyone here on the call said some amazing things, some really interesting things. I think if I look at my career over the last, 27, 28 years, is the one thing that has been consistent is about authenticity of brand, authenticity of voice, how you connect and engage with your customers in a way that, it resonates with them. They feel an affinity towards your organization, your brand, your product, whatever it is you're selling. We used to call it tribal marketing. It's called, whatever the name is given, is fundamental core of marketing principle. It's about creating that connection with your audience. And whatever tools and tactics are in place to help us do that, I think it's incumbent on us as marketing leaders to be able to show the next generation coming up that these are the important fundamentals of what we're doing. The rest is just the tools and access that we have towards the audience to understand them better. But fundamentally, we need to be authentic in our voice, the connections we make, and be truthful about that as well, and have that process that validates, their affinity towards your brand, towards your message, and ultimately towards your product. And that's what creates lifetime value.
Well, thank you all so much. This has been such a rich and great conversation. I'm sure this is one of those episodes that will stick with a lot with our listeners. And for all of you who are listening to this podcast, please don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, share with your colleagues if you think this is interesting. And until next time, thank you so much.